I mean, I really think these producers ought to be ashamed of themselves. Aaron B., who is also very sure that Charity is the one for him, just like Joey and just like Dot, and I think that's a good thing, but here's the problem. And maybe it's more of a problem for, maybe I see it as more of a problem for Aaron B. than he does for himself. It's not like Charity chose one other guy over him. She chose 3 other guys over him. Hello everybody, welcome back after another episode of Bachelorette.
Hold on, stop the show. This is exactly how I would have started off the show last Monday when I was about to post. Instead, I got a big surprise block from the likes of Warner Brothers and ABC. The thing that gets me is I don't even use clips that much. Now, I know this for a fact because according to Dante, who was very disappointed with one of my videos, so much so that he thought to leave a comment, you see this? Too much solo talking and not enough footage and audio. Are you listening, YouTube? Dante apparently loves when psychologists break down shows like this, but I'm sorry to hear that you were disappointed with the video, Dante, but you should probably know that I'm not a psychologist, and fair warning to you, if for some reason you are still watching my channel, you are about to hate, and I mean absolutely hate, the rest of this video, because I'm going to have to narrate this show by myself on my own strength. If I were you or anyone else that just wants to see clips, I would turn away now. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to it.
Hello everybody, welcome back after another episode of Bachelorette.
So the show starts off with everyone saying all the nice things about each other. Charity is still confused about who she wants to go with, and Jesse Palmer is there to support her and ask the most basic of questions. But at least he knows to stay out of the way better than Vanessa Lachey. Eventually we get to Fiji. Charity and Xavier get off the boat and immediately they are encountered by the folks that live on the island. And of course, with this show, they get invited to take part in some of the Fijian wedding activities. Xavier gets all dressed up. Charity gets all dressed up. They do a little dancing, a little partying. Honestly, it's all pretty innocent. It's a big distraction, but it's pretty innocent. And I will say that because of this ceremony, we got yet another glimpse into what Charity has been suspecting this entire time during the vows portion of the ceremony. When it's Xavier's turn to give wedding vows, he turns to Charity and tells her that she's a delicate flower, and he's worried that when he picks her up, he's going to crush her. Charity laughs this off, of course, but afterwards she's like, what the fuck? This whole time, I don't think they showed it, but Xavier's been doing stuff and saying stuff that makes Charity question how dedicated he is to her. And that comment about her being a flower just fed into that same paranoia for her.
Listen, I don't think he's doing this intentionally, but Xavier's full of right? Like, he is. Like, something's off, and I don't know what it is. I feel like Charity doesn't know what it is too, but she suspects something is off with him because she mentioned this in an earlier episode about how she's getting a vibe from him that she just doesn't trust all the way.
And I know when you got something brewing. I know it.
So later that night, they get to the dinner and things seem to be going well. I don't think there's ever been any question about whether or not Xavier and Charity have chemistry with one another. It's always been a question of where is Xavier's head at? And then Xavier stops everything and tells Charity that he has something that he wants to let her know. Now, y'all know how these conversations go. Either the guy or the girl stops everything and says, listen, I got something I want to tell you. By now, most of you know what that something was. Now, I want to stop everything right here because this is the important part of this show. And I mean very important for the development of Miss Charity. What may be the biggest interaction for this season and even with Charity's season with Zach. Why do I feel this way? Let's go back in time.
And when someone comes to you and tells you hey, you know, I have this emotional issue. I've struggled in relationships like this. Your questions need to be, okay, what have you done to correct that issue? And if you didn't ask that question, or if you didn't require that person to address those issues and you just took them as they are, whose fault is that?
Man, I wish I could play the clip of her asking him these questions. I'll probably have it for you on TikTok if you haven't seen it, but I could not have been prouder. Man, oh man.
I think she's got it. I think she's got it. By George, she's got it. By George, she's got it.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is growth. As the dinner goes on, Charity keeps asking the tough questions, but this man has absolutely no answer. And actually, I take that back. He had answers. He didn't have good answers. He said something to the effect of, my heart has no doubt, but in my head, I do still have doubts.
What the hell did you just say?
And look, I could give the guy a hard time, but I get what the brother means. But at the end of the day, he knows how he gets down. And when he does what he knows he is likely going to do, I don't think he wants to be held responsible.
Okay? It's almost like he's preparing for when Charity catches him in bed with another woman. Listen, I care about you, but I warned you this might happen. So if you really think about it, it's really both our fault that I cheated on you. This all comes back to that same old phrase, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Now I want to point something out here, because now we're getting to what seems to be real conversations that I think happen every day. I think this is a real conversation. It doesn't seem staged. It seems like a genuine interaction. But with reality TV, you never know. Okay? People that just aren't ready, trying to talk themselves into being ready. And with Xavier, you know, first he started off not being sure if he wanted to marry her from the show, which, okay, I think that's fair. You've known her for just a few weeks, and this is a really big decision. But Xavier, why are you there? Like, you knew the rules when you signed up for this show, and now on top of that, you can't reassure her or promise her that you won't cheat in the future. So let's take a step back. I'm gonna make some comments about cheating, all right? So in regards to cheating, I do think people can change. I don't necessarily go with the once a cheater, always a cheater. But I do think it's entirely possible to promise someone that you won't have sex with someone else while you're in a relationship with them. There is a difference between emotional cheating and physical cheating. And I also could understand how there's a difference, but I can understand how they all fall under the category of cheating. Like, I get that. But I understand how one could develop an emotional connection to someone other than their spouse. It's very difficult to control. And I understand falling out of love with your spouse. Again, very difficult to control, you know, because when you talk about emotions, it's very reactive. It's very reflexive. But with the behavior, such as having sex with someone, that's much less reflexive, much less reactive. You know, there's a lot of steps that go into engaging in that activity or engaging in that behavior that I do think people have much more control over. So I understand how some stuff is hard to promise over a lifespan, that it won't happen. Like, it's hard to promise wanting to be with someone for the rest of your life. Like, I get that. But Xavier, you can't promise that you won't have sex with someone else other than your spouse? Sir, thank you for your honesty. And I think you should keep being honest. But I don't think this show and this girl are for you right now. It's like, that's strike two. I don't think Charity has time for a third strike. And right now she's got two guys that she likes, also like her, that don't seem to be as unsure. So Xavier just isn't in the same category as those two. So there's really no point in him still being there. Everything is in place for Charity to make a tough decision. But again, the show just can't help itself. I mean, I really think these producers ought to be ashamed of themselves. Aaron B, who is also very sure that Charity is the one for him, just like Joey and just like Dot, and I think that's a good thing, but here's the problem. And maybe it's more of a problem for, maybe I see it as more of a problem for Aaron B than he does for himself. It's not like Charity chose one other guy over him. She chose 3 other guys over him. You can't get more evidence about her not being interested than her telling you to go and her telling you to go home than that. I just can't help but think that if you pull this kind of stuff in today's day and time, you are going to jail for stalking. Like, I know Aaron B isn't stalking. I mean, it's the show. The producers clearly told him where Charity was, where she was going to be staying, and she may have even agreed to it beforehand. You know, and I also suspect that even though they showed Aaron B in this past episode coming to Fiji before Xavier made his exit, I just have a strong feeling that after Xavier showed himself to be who he is, they then called Aaron B to come in and fill for him so that they would have more content for the show. Aaron B is in many ways right back to where he was before, except this time Joey and Dotun have spent the night with Charity, and Aaron B is nowhere near close to that, you know? Anyway, shame on these producers for creating unnecessary drama. But whatever, it's a TV show, I accept. Anyway, Joey recovered nicely from his uncle's betrayal, and it was just like I thought. He was just nervous. His uncle showed up unannounced, there's cameras in front of him. You know, I just don't understand why his uncle would say that to Charity. I just don't get it. Anyway, their date went well on this past episode. But my money is still on Dot, okay? And his date went well too. I think the one thing that may work against Dotun is the lack of drama that some people might misinterpret as a lack of spark. You know, things are too perfect. Last thing I will say about this past week's episode, and even looking forward to the reunion and the finale. If I am correct about Joey and Dotun being the 2 guys that have a serious shot at getting with Charity, unfortunately, we are going to see on the internet over the next few weeks big opinions, lots of opinions about the obvious potential interracial couple issue. I would not be surprised if people didn't watch any other episode of this show, heard about this situation with Charity having to pick a white guy or a black guy, and tuned in just for the finale, just to see who she picks. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on her, one way or the other. She's not dumb. It is a very hot button issue in the United States still. She knows how people feel about this. I wish her the best of luck, and I hope she makes a decision that is best for her. Well, folks, I got nothing else. That's all for today. I'll check in with y'all maybe after the reunion or maybe after the finale. We'll see what I have time for. I do have my money on Dotun being the winner here. We'll see who was right. I think it'll be me. I think it'll be Dotun, but we'll see. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.